Oh, come on, let it out. It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday, folks. Is there a better time to have a poetry debate? Hello. Hello all, folks, and welcome to the Wheeler Centre and also to the Hatred of Poetry debate brought to us by Red Room Poetry for Melbourne Poetry Month. Could I have said the words Melbourne and poetry more in one sentence? Welcome, everyone. Is everyone feeling good? Okay, good. We'll get there. Have you got a drink? Yeah, if you don't drink, that's fine too. This is nice. This is surreal, actually. It feels like it's my first day on Earth. Hello. I'd say I'm doing quite well, given that. Folks, we have a debate on our hands tonight, as you presumably know. If not, just get into it. Is there two children there? Are there? Hello, folks. They might learn something. My name is David Quirk, folks. That's my real name. I didn't make it up. I didn't think it was some sort of hilarious comic stage name. I love it. No, it's Irish. Let's move on. I am a comedian, an actor, and a writer of sort of all kinds of various things. Rarely poetry, though I have written poems. I mean, who hasn't? Good joke, Quirk. I've written more poems, though, I have to say, than I have hosted debates. So I am a bit on the back foot, and I'm like a snake. I'm more afraid of you. Yeah. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet this evening, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and the Bunurong and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Thank you. It is good to be here, I have to say, folks. It's a pleasure. I recently had to do some comedy in South Marianne, so it's good to be anywhere else, to be totally honest. Has anyone been out that way? You know it? Yeah. I don't know. It's far out, isn't it? But remember, it was. You go down to platform 1, and for years at Flinders Street Station, it was Epping, wasn't it? Epping was the king and the queen, and then one day you show up platform 1, South Marianne. Now it's something we call Mernda, whatever that is. But you might cast aspersions on those far-flung areas. I don't know, but you shouldn't, because when I went out there, I realised it's actually more an interesting area than I gave it credit for, to be honest. It used to have an interesting name, far more interesting. Does anyone know the traditional name of South Marianne? The original name, anyone? No? Marianne South. That's true. So they've gone to the iridescent boundaries of imagination on that whole, haven't they? Yes. Good, but here we are. Hatred of poetry is a strong title, isn't it? But it's a good title, I think. If I wasn't hosting this event, I'd have certainly come to watch with a name like that. But it's also a perfect name for tonight's event. The poet and novelist Ben Lerner, in 1979, wrote an essay titled The Hatred of Poetry. It's a name drawn from Marianne Moore's poem, simply and brilliantly named Poetry, which begins, I too dislike it, which is a great opening and perfect for tonight. But Ben Lerner wrote in his essay, amongst other things, he says, many more people agree they hate poetry than can agree what poetry is. And this mission statement is what our brilliant speakers will attempt to get to the bottom of tonight. Well, we're all here to discuss the proposition, the provocation, that the hatred of poetry is justified. How do you all feel about that? Yeah, it's worth talking about, isn't it? But before we debate anything at all, I would like to invite Isabella Einkler Onus to perform 2 readings of her own poetry. She is a proud Gunja writer living in Naarm. Her work explores themes of identity, cultural connection, and the intricate relationship between land and body. Thank you very much. Please welcome Isabella. Thank you, folks.
Hello, everybody. My name's Bella. Yeah, proud Gunditjmara, poet and creative, and I'm going to read you some of my poetry. This first one is called Black Love and Rage. They said, "Are you sure that's how it felt?" I said, "No, I just thought I'd lie, for fun." Hospitals with white ceilings, white coats, white men, asking if I've tried mindfulness. If I've tried cutting out, slimming down, doing more, less, if I've tried being someone else entirely. Lecture me about who I am, always in the third person. They missed the part where I couldn't breathe. Peers talk over me about empathy, as cited in APA, or was it Harvard? I'm not a thesis, I'm not a study cohort. My humanity is not your panel discussion. I am here, I am proof, I am enough. This blood says so, and my mother says so. Rage accumulates in my gut like eucalyptus and Blinky Bill. My rage is not the opposite of love, it's the sediment of it. It's what happens when you've loved so hard for so long and no one listened. I believe if you're not upset, you mustn't have much love in your heart. Couldn't be me. I love hard, I cry hard, I care, I carry, I rage. I rage because I was told to be quiet. I rage because someone has to. They said, "Tell us your story." And I said, "Only if you can feel rage. True rage. Carry it with you. Otherwise, what's the point?" My next poem is called Affirmations. Frustration, like trying to sleep with a street lamp next to your window, or the accidental discovery of an unknown allergen. I mutate an enzyme that's as active as dew on the floodplain. I have work tomorrow, and I'm tossing and turning, but running late and leaving the straightener on has nothing on the lorikeet's shriek in the bushfire, except it was my fault I didn't buy organic. Board members say, apply the tools of protein engineering and dream of an ecstatic ocean. Frustration, like watching mozzies choke the street lamp, but longing to watch the clouds pass over my moon. Oppression has turned this sky brown, and gentrification has surrounded me with people who've never seen a koala outside of bars. White passing and educating white fellas. I'm the milk you get at the very end of your chocolate Nesquik magic straw. Barely tainted. Imposter. Somewhere between Nayuka Gori's white psycho dream girl and crazy Aboriginal lady. White Aboriginal girl, or WAG for short. Frustration, like a mirror doing you the injustice of telling the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Pimple popping is out. Forget the oozy dark, semi-liquid wine-like sticky molasses. Eco-friendly plastic beer bottles on the beach before your birthday bash. Last winter, the leaves fell. My last poem is called The Burning Question. Remember to smell the salty, spicy, sweet air. AI overview tells me the harsh, isolated, nutrient-poor Australian environment is to blame. But the country I know is supple, fertile, life-giving, and unforgiving to those who mistreat it. Do you smell that? Or are your pores, your holes, clogged, shovelled, pounded by the city, packed with soot, Even your blackheads are contained by the structures made to protect you and your children from savagery that allows you to shelter, protect, survive, be comfortable, to colonize, be colonized, be colonizer. Are you uncomfortable? If yes, interrogate your psyche. I'll wait. If no, stay comfortable. The Empire thanks you. But I ask, show me life that doesn't bleed. Sky spills pink at dawn. Glittered on split bark seeping bright toffee life force. Mother possum left her blood on my balcony. Twice. But that thing you built for us, the colony, doesn't bleed. Calcified sacred veins choke the morning chorus. I'm losing her. The colony growls, but it is not a beast that bleeds. Hoard our memory like paper and burn it for warmth. But some seeds only bloom after burning. Thank you.
Isabella Eichler-Onus, folks, one more time. Thank you, Isabella, so much. What a wag. Great acronym, by the way. Folks, so if I could just sort of outline how this will go. We are here again to reiterate the very notion that the hatred of poetry is justified. Each speaker has 5 minutes to state their arguments. There will be no rebuttals and there will be no winners but poetry itself. It's a friendly match. So if I could, please start the round of applause as I welcome up our affirmative team. Please welcome Suren Jayaman, Sez, and Evelyn Aurelian. Thank you. Did I get your surname right at all? Oh, no. Folks, and for our negative team, start the clapping, please. Welcome to this stage, Pio, Vidya Rajan, and Eloise Grills. Thank you very much. Okay. And then we just go straight into it, I think. Did you pay to get in? I was hoping the only thing I was wasting was your time. No, just joking. I wasn't meant to say that. I would like to welcome our first speaker, please, for the affirmative team. It's my friend, my very good friend, and I was just on tour with him doing comedy sort of up the East Coast, and one of the funniest and loveliest people. But Suren is also a writer and an actor, currently based in Melbourne. He is the third best comedian in Australia from a Sri Lankan background who used to be an accountant. Please welcome Suren Jayaman. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That's correct. Everything he said is correct. My life is actually, think less inheritance of loss and more the loss of inheritance. Just a little book joke for you nerds. Anyway, okay. Well, I should just say thank you to everyone for coming along today. I'm here in my capacity as ambassador for Poetry Month. Yeah, I know. To quote my girlfriend, poetry gets a whole month. That's crazy. Of course, she would say that. Women only get a day. Well, they got to share it with all the other international women. But it's going to be a long 5 minutes. As it happens, this is not actually the first time I've been invited to be an ambassador for something. Earlier this year, I was asked to be an ambassador for Oodie. Do you guys know Oodie? Yeah. If you haven't heard of Oodie, it's sort of like a half doona, half hoodie situation, and they've sold like $200 million worth of these things. $200 million. That's crazy. A man just looked at a sheep and thought, yeah, I would wear that. But synthetic and never in public. He thought that, and then he looked at all the rest of us and he was like, more sheep, you know? And now he sold $200 million worth of hoodies. And he's on a young person's rich list, right? And if you don't know what an hoodie is, you've seen it at the supermarket, definitely. It's like a clan hood for the winter climate. And KKK, but they all stand for comfort. Anyway, the point is I turned them down, okay? I turned them down despite their just incredible persistence. They kept persisting. They were like, we want you to be an ambassador. We love your work. You're amazing. You're a perfect fit. They said that. You're a perfect fit. I looked it up. Hoodies are one size fits all. We're all a fucking perfect fit. But I've decided to be an ambassador for Poetry Month, okay? And thank you. Yes, I'm here in my capacity as ambassador for Poetry Month to argue for the hatred of poetry. Honestly, if I knew that being an ambassador for something involved actively hating on it in a room full of people, I probably would have said yes to Woody. I would have happily taken the $250 of Woody vouchers. Anyway, so why is hatred of poetry justified? Well, for starters, this whole event was conceived of by poets. Need I say any more? Like, poets themselves gathered us all here as if to feed off our hate. Oh, you hate us, don't you? That's what they said. That's what the email said. You do, you hate us, don't you? Don't lie. You hate us, and we deserve it, don't we? It's pathetic, you know? Go on, prove it in front of all these people. I mean, that kind of self-flagellation, that would make Opus Dei jealous. Anyway, I think what's going to happen after this event is these poets, they'll go home and they'll write some poems. All hopped up on misery. Now, I'd like to make it clear, I believe that there are plenty of good poems, okay, out there. You know, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, that kind of thing. On a side note, please don't compare me to a summer's day. I'll save you the time. I'm approaching 40 and I'm very dry. It's called atopic dermatitis and I spend a lot of money on skincare routine. So. I think the problem is good poems, though. That's what I believe. Good poems inspire ordinary people to write bad poetry. And that is the essence of my argument tonight, the difference between a good poem and poetry itself. You know, for every good poem, I would say, there's like 1,000 shit ones. Did I mention I'm the ambassador for Poetry Month? But you know, a good poem is its own thing. It stands apart. And we only call it a poem because we love a label as people. But it exists regardless of that label. It transcends a label. It sort of grasps at the ungraspable. It catches hold of the ephemeral. It's a bridge between two souls, the poets and the readers. Two souls who for a brief moment convene in the transient present. It's beautiful. Poetry is something you see printed on a pillow in an Airbnb. It's like someone sat down and tried to write that, you know? Can you imagine? That's yucky. You can't try to write a good poem. It just sort of pours out of you, you know? And then it finds the reader when they need it most. A good poem, all it's asking you to do is sort of just look at a tree. If you could just do that instead of write your poetry. All I'm trying to say is, can't the soul ever just revel in the spectacle of existence, moved by its own capacity to wonder, without the mind forcing its way in, going like, oh, I could do that? I've got a book of poems here, and I'd like to read from it. Bread again. The staff of life has become the lunch of staff. Is that a poem? It's a sort of more of a amusing thought, really. But Savoury. Brown gravy, should be sold by the bottle. Drink savoury, not sickly. Let your clothes catch the dottle. You're just making up words by the end of that. This is in a book which by a poet who Wikipedia says, Les Murray, by the way. According to Wikipedia, one of Australia's greatest, most iconic poets and soccer commentators, bracket disambiguity bracket. Just a little Wikipedia joke for you there. But my point is, the good poems, they're kind of few and far between. They're out there, but it's sort of like risotto, you know? Like when you have a risotto, when you see it on the menu, your heart is like, yes, I've heard there are good risottos out there. But every time you sort of indulge in it, it's just stodge and cheese. Someone who would have read Les Murray's poem, they would have been like 10 words. That's it, 10 words. There's a whole page, 10 words. I can do that. Thanks. By the way, I've gone way over time, but I just want to say I feel like I'm not defending prose at all. I just want to make that point clear. I'm not defending prose. I think I'm not pro prose any more than I am pro poetry. Prose. Have you seen what's happened to books these days? It's dragon porn, isn't it? And they call it romantasy. And I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, Roman fantasies. People in sexy togas pushed up against aqueducts, that kind of thing. No, that's not even, it's romantic fantasy. It's monster porn. It's monster fucking. It's like it's a minotaur that's half, bull and half bull. You know what I mean? It's a hydra where you cut off one cock and 7 more grow back. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that next year, pick someone better to be an ambassador for poetry. Thank you, that's my time. Thank you.
Siren Jayaman, folks. Absolutely laying into Uddies and poetry and poets like an absolute Philistine. Good. Thank you, Siren, appreciate it. And half bull, half man, half bull, half bull is a bull. Anyway, I'm no mathematician, but we're not here to talk about maths. For the, you are negative? I get it mixed up. He's for the thing that, yeah. So that makes this team the negative, doesn't it? Thanks, folks. First day on Earth. Give me a break. I would like to welcome up Pio, who I wasn't too familiar with, but I did hear him on Triple R the other morning and was astounded and couldn't turn it off, though I'd like to. And no, I love Triple R. He was born in Greece in 1951, came to Australia in 1954, raised Fitzroy, in brackets it says here, which is an inner suburb of Melbourne. Take that home. His book, Heidi and Giramondo, won the Judith Wright Calanth Award, have I got that correct? In 2020, and was shortlisted for the Prime Minister's Literary Award for Poetry in the same year. We could take or leave Prime Ministers, couldn't we, folks? But let's give it up for Pio, please, folks. Thank
you, Pio. In 2008, Melbourne became UNESCO's second city of literature after Edinburgh. Louise Adler at the library, in front of about 300-400 people. Louise Adler was head of Melbourne University Press at the time, and she said, "It's such a great honour. We're going to have writers of all sorts, novelists, essayists, critics, and, if we have to, poets. I don't find laughing at poetry funny. I find it objectionable, and I think it's important to realise why poetry is in such low esteem in this country. It goes back right through to the beginning of Australian literature, and it goes to the gatekeepers and to the academics and to the establishment that runs this country. C.J. Dennis, who is perhaps one of Australia's truly great poets, who wrote in dialect, he wrote, for those who don't know, The Sentimental Bloke. And it was said of him by Kenneth Slessor, who in 1920, Kenneth Slessor, who is considered to be Australia's great modernist poet. And Kenneth Slessor said of C.J. Dennis that when C.J. Dennis characters are made to speak in metrical slang and rhymed dialogue, it can never be allowed that the result is poetry. The remorseless fact is that dialect of any description is fatal to poetry. There is no halfway house. This is an example of the establishment trying to detooth poetry, to make it a laughing stock and irrelevant. And as he said, it can never be allowed. And if it can't be allowed, then you can't write it. And if you can't write in dialect, in other words, the way your tongue works, the way you think, the culture from which you come from, then it is inadmissible. This had its serious implications when Oodgeroo Noonuckle in the 60s, Australia's first Aboriginal woman writer to have a book of poems, they said it was inadmissible that what she wrote as poetry, because the language was running her rhymes and she wasn't running the rhymes. Not only that, they couldn't hear the dialect in the rhymes. And the worst thing about it was a lot of the critics wouldn't even put their name to the reviews. This idea that poets are somehow not writers really. Performance poetry came along in the 70s, and it's the largest poetry movement in Australian history. But you won't find very much written about it, because a lot of it's done on the stage or off the page or on radio. When C.J. Dennis wrote in dialect and read his poems to a whole culture, he's not normally anthologised in poetry readings, even though his poems were taken by soldiers to the front during World War I and II. And the reason he wasn't considered to be a poet was because he was considered to be a phenomenon. And this is the problem with performance poetry. They assume that we are actors. They assume that we can wrangle it with the audience, tell them a joke or two and get off stage to huge applause. But the value of the poetry is crap. I don't subscribe to that. We are not actors. We are writers. I could go on, but I won't.
Pio, thank you very much. Pio, everybody. Mesmerising, rousing, incredible. Thank you, Pio. I don't know if anyone's doing their time. That just says the actual time down there. So it's 7:01 if anyone's curious. There's no winners or losers, I told you. Folks, the next performer is someone I know and is brilliant. This says here, she is a comedian, musician, writer, content creator and producer, offering a world of valuable Gen Z perspective. You don't regret having that in the bio, do you? No. From a solo... No, let's just bring her on. She is brilliant. She's a punk. Please welcome Sez. Thank you.
What the hell? You might need that. Thank you. Okay, hectic. Let's live it. I will say, I'm moved, and now I've got to be comedic. It's kind of crazy. First of all, cheers for having me. Huge vibes here tonight. You're all the main character. Look at you. What are you doing here? It's a Thursday night, you sick fucks. It's crazy. The Wheeler Centre. I'm impressed. The thing is, guys, I am Australia's #1 poet. Don't fact check that, please. I'm also Australia's #6 dyslexic bisexual. Give us a woo if you're a dyslexic bisexual. Thank God. Okay, sick. Well, there might be some points where I lose myself in this, but you know, because I'm amazing, I have great sportsmanship. I just want to say a few words about the other team. Pio, we both have 3 letters in our name, so obviously we are the most iconic people here. No shade to everyone else. It's cold hard facts. Video, you're a powerhouse in so many ways, but when you did that live comedy show, Respawn, and on the poster you evolved into a snail, that's when I knew you were the voice of a generation. That shit was amazing. And I've seen you at events, but I can't even approach you because your aura is so powerful. I get scared. It's a lot. And then Eloise, I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time, but Eloise Grills, like, that's an amazing rapper name. If you ever want to swap industries, E-Grills. You know what I mean? That's a vibe. But yeah, I respect you all so much, but the truth is, my team is the best. And even if no one is technically winning this debate, we have won. And we will always win. When I was asked to do this debate, I'm going to be real with you, as Australia's #1 poet, I said yes, okay? But as Australia's #6 dyslexic bisexual, I actually didn't read the brief. So it was a bit of a shock to the system when I read it 2 days ago and it said, I have to like hate poetry and stuff. Kind of insulting as a poet. Do you know what I mean? But here we are, like, I am poetry, I run poetry, and poetry is my bitch, so I can be on both sides, right? Okay. There's so much that's so silly in this. I was like, in the words of inner North Melbourne icon, Troye Sivan, I feel the rush. And now I'm like, is that the vibe? You know what I mean? Okay. I'm also a musical comedian, so I don't really speak. I go like, yeah. And now we're here. I'm like, this is serious. We are serious right now. Okay. Firstly, my first argument. Let's go. As a single woman in the dating world, it's clear to see that people shouldn't be more poetic, romantic, deep, or have meaning in their words. Like, I personally love 2 a.m. messages like, "Oi, are you up? Can you transfer me the money for that kebab I bought you? If you're coming over, can you pick me up a pack of darts on the way?" It's poetry in a way, right? And, you know, romance is great. Like, we don't need improvement in that. We don't need people reading or getting into poetry or like just doing the bare minimum. We don't need that. That would suck. Like, I don't want anyone to write a sonnet about me. No, thank you. That's not the vibe. But, you know, I am dating mostly DJs and bass players. Any DJs or bass players here tonight? No? Okay, I'm sick. Secondly, this is just like personal. I had a housemate who wrote a poetry book when I lived in London, and she stole money from me. Yeah, true story. And then she blocked my phone number. And then she posted an Instagram in the middle of the woods with the caption, "Your vibe attracts your tribe." That just really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm not trying to generalize all poets, but poets are thieves. And everyone here should watch their back tonight. I hope you have your wallet strapped to your ribcage. Okay. And my third argument, sometimes things aren't that deep. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you think his eyes look like the bark off a sassafras tree. No, his eyes are brown. You think her voice was like a glass of lemonade on a hot summer's day. No, she vapes every day. She sounds like plywood in a food processor. You think Mother Nature is crying for your broken soul, you tiny wounded bird. No, it's raining, okay? Where was I? Oh, yeah. Oh, you're having an existential crisis because the world is cooked and your parents are divorced. Guys, it's 2025. Everyone's parents are divorced, okay? Stop trying to use it as a personality trait. Just cry in the shower, listen to Missy Higgins like everyone else. That's the only way. Put the pen down, everyone. You have deep childhood trauma and a crippling need for external validation. Stop rhyming about it, Jessica. We're done. Go to therapy. And just like another thing that I wasn't sure if I'd say, but I just feel like with the cost of living crisis that's happening, shout out to Cos of Livy if you're here, when I read poetry books, there's a lot of space left on the page. And it's starting to feel a little scammy, okay? It's like $45 for a book. Most of the page is not being used. To conclude, poetry can suck my dick. All right, thank you, everyone.
Says everyone. It's a fair enough argument about the lack of the negative space. I never thought about it. You've really solved me. Folks, give it up for Says. So thank you. You don't have to do that. Don't know what I'm doing. Last year I was asked by Red Room Poetry to be an ambassador, believe it or not, for Poetry Month. Presumably it was some sort of clerical error, but I did it, and I had to write a poem for it. And in some request of pure cruelty, they've asked me to recite it to you. May I? Okay. Let's see if there is any hatred of poetry. Here we go. It's a thing I wrote called Compromising the Ambience. What happened was I noticed my heart was beating. Not that it ever stopped, but you understand. I was watching a guitar man on YouTube break down Tommy Emmanuel's classical gas at the time, of all times. A small good thing it's beating without my asking. My eyes rise to the buildings and sky without. A homeless man in Fremantle thumbing through an expired passport. takes me off my mantle. The chamfered corner of it below a crestfallen belfry. The old brawn of the right-angled neck atop the spinal column works hard. Is there something solemn in this man travelling to far-off places he remembers tender? Or has the mind forgot like blurry birth? Or has he never been beyond Perth? Then the big one, in the loud group, at the library of all places, states at volume, I wouldn't see Taylor Swift if you gave me orange juice all night. He's surely right, even though he holds the newspaper impossibly close to his face, even though his reading looks like he's trying to hide from some old lover poorly. His loud friends don't seem to mind, or else they gave up ages ago saying, "Get some glasses, man." Thank you. Now, I would like to bring up our fourth speaker, which is on the negative team. This is exciting, folks. This is Vijayarajan. Is a writer and performer currently based in Australia, working across screenwriting, theatre, comedy and digital space. There are literally too many credits here to name, but I'm very excited to hear her speak. Please welcome Vijayarajan. Thank you.
Hello. Says, you know how you said you were like intimidated by me? I just want to say you should be. Because look, even though I'm on team you shouldn't hate poetry, in general in life, I do actually identify as a huge hater. Like a grudge goblin. I prefer discernment troll. You know, I love to seethe, to eye roll, to side eye. When I spot a live followed by a laugh, I don't even ever make it to love before the red mist descends. You know, I'm told my first word as a child was amma, which is the Tamil word for mother, amma. But Mum, she got it wrong. What I was actually saying was, are you for real right now? Nope. When I encounter like a pos vibe person in the wild, I just raise my arms really like big like this and slowly back away while yelling, because sometimes what works on a bear also works on a person. What I'm trying to say basically is that my hate radar is so finely attuned. Like the faintest whiff of anything twee or sentimental in culture, I'm off like a precision missile strike. It's the kind of sensitivity you develop if you have started puberty around the time Garden State, the Zach Braff nausea vehicle came out. And also if your first boyfriend, category white, thought that he discovered the shins and was really into talking about how he was Japanese on the inside. What I'm saying is I lived through the noughties. And much like another person who lived through that time, Kendrick Lamar, I have emerged to be one of the great haters of all time. Side note, thank you, Kendrick. Because of the Kendrick-Drake feud, we live in a post-hate is bad world. Like, spite is in, nonchalance, she's dead, everyone's a cholent bitch now. Thank God, no more do I have to pretend that I love things for the sake of social politeness or cultural cachet. Basically, I can now be, I was born this way, bitter. All that to say, I'm giving you my hate credentials because it's important. I would not be standing here telling you that I believe that you shouldn't hate poetry if there was any possibility that I could hate it. It's the kind of oath you take as a hater. You know, it's an honor among pissy bitches to only have genuine reasons to hate things. And if I had to hate on poetry, and I could, trust me, I would be first in line, like yum yum. Because you know what? I'm certainly happy to hate on poets. Category Australian literary scene, redacted. I actually wonder if maybe that's where a lot of people's misplaced hatred for poetry comes from. Like, yes, you know, thank you, we've won, goodbye. I get it. I really do get it. There is like how do I put this? Like a dampness in the air when a poet approaches. Just kind of like the rain cloud of emotions and the soggy solemnity. The vitamin D deficiency is just pinging off their bones. And then there's like the constant conversation about the moon, like, okay, we get it, she's been around forever, we get it. Honestly, I feel like I don't want to tell them, but if the moon ever heard like them chatting about her, she would haul her bone white ass, dipped in memory, ivory white ass moon, pawn of empire, haul her chalk-kissed ass out of Earth's gravitational pull and fucking leave. So I get it with hating poets. But see, the thing is, you have to separate the art from the artist, the poem from the awful poet. Because poetry, you know, it's just too wide and too varied to be hated. I actually have a logic issue with this. So a good hater, if you didn't know, is nothing if not rational and rigorous. Again, citing Kendrick, they not like us. More than 20 highly specific accusations against Drake going back literal decades, none of which proved legally actionable. Like Drake tried, don't know if you've heard, he just dropped his defamation lawsuit against Lamar because they couldn't prove anything. So hater logic undefeated. We always go with the logic first. And let me demonstrate that logic to you today. First, to know if we should hate a poem, we need to understand what a poem is. And, you know, I did some research and I found this like organization, Red Room Poetry. And they actually commissioned what I can only think of as like a great philosopher to do this YouTube video a few years ago explaining what a poem is. And if we could just play that, this really, really amazing video right now. What is a poem? Let's find out.
This is a poem.
This is a poem.
This is a poem.
This is a poem. A poem. A poem.
A poem.
A po. Oh. Oh. Oh, 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 oh.
N.
Poem.
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 Yes. Yes, sure, okay. A poem. Poem. Po.
This is also.
Oh. Oh.
Yes, 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 it's a yes. Poem.
Poem.
Yes, 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 it's a yes.
Every.
Yes.
And I couldn't help but wonder, if everything was a poem, how do we even know what other things are? Are there other things in the world even? Am I a thing? Is this me speaking? If anyone can write everything and everything can be anyone, then how many blips are blops? What I mean is Mr. Big's blops? What I mean is, doesn't this way anarchy lie? How do we even know what is good and bad? And if we don't know that, if we can't create a system for that, then when I force people to tell me I'm their favourite person all the time, how can I even believe they mean it? We need standards in this world, don't we? Or else we're all just floating along doing whatever. And how win big prize and how get things done and how, like, even know stuff. And I know history and decentralize, yes, and the power structures and the taste is an issue. You must not police, like, no gatekeeping, that's bad. But hello, are you just going to let raccoons in the gate? Raccoons in the gate, they'll eat your cake. And then I couldn't help but think, oh God, someone show me the way. Mr. Big is dead. And I couldn't help but wonder, wouldn't it be nice if there was just someone who could set the limits of things so I know where I end?
Okay, thank you. So I think as that video proves, a poem can be anything, and thus hating everything makes no sense. Like, would you hate this? Drop Bear Evelyn Araluen? No. And thus, all I have to say is, if you are hating poetry, or like in the words of Kendrick Lamar, why are you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired?
Thank you, Vidya. One more time for Vidya Rajan. Thank you, folks. We better keep things moving. Our next speaker is a poet, researcher, and co-editor of the Overland Literary Journal. There are too many awards and prizes to really mention, but she was born and raised on a Darug country and is a descendant of the I'm so sorry. Bunjalong Nation. Sorry, folks. Thank you very much. Please welcome to the stage Evelyn Araluen.
So I want you all to know that I did not know that Vidya was bringing a copy of my book and has conspicuously been like holding it just where I can see this entire time. And then brought it up to the podium and sat it on the podium, and the entire time I just sat there listening to Vidya's speech, I thought, when's it going to happen? And what is it going to be? And how the fuck can I get out of here? And I spent all that time thinking about that and not finishing writing my little talk. And we're going to find out how that goes. I used to get invited to events like this as a token Aboriginal, but I think here tonight I'm actually the token, somehow I've managed to make some amount of money off of poetry person. So I was then, of course, humbled to be placed in the negative, which has given me a lot of options for how to approach this event, and is frankly a deeply valid response to place me in a position. No, I'm not negative, I'm affirmative. You are right that it is quite confusing. And I'm bisexual, but I'm not even dyslexic, so... Or maybe I am. I've read some of my drafts and it's shocking. But despite being of that incredibly minor minority of poets who've ever made any money in this country, I do need to emphasise that due to the Australian taxation system, some deeply questionable financial choices, and a tendency to withdraw from gigs every time it turns out that the people paying me were sort of hoping I wasn't going to talk about Palestine, I am no longer swimming in that sweet poetry cache. So tonight I come to you as a mere mortal. Unfortunately, I'm also usually programmed in these scenarios. If I'm not the token Aboriginal, I'm normally actually the funny one, which is deeply distressing given how many comedians are here on the stage. So we're all fucked, frankly. Because and I just would like to briefly make a note to the programmers. I think it's incredibly brave and courageous and potentially, well, you know what? There's other words for that. I think it's wonderful that you've booked Payo to start us off so that you can screw over every other person on this fucking panel. Because what am I meant to do after Payo? You got a national treasure and you were like, yeah, talk about the thing that you have defended for decades in this community and make it light. That's not going to happen, okay? So now the rest of us are just recovering the chill and the balance, because talking about the establishment de-toothing poetry just... And all I can think of is, well, I spent the only money I've ever earned off of poetry in fixing my teeth. And I didn't even finish the job. So, yeah, so you've just got me in a state of disorientation and decay. I liked listening to the others, though. That's nice. It's nice to be out of the house, frankly. I've got some notes. it felt very important for me to get this one down. I do actually like poetry sometimes, and so that's a disclaimer for my position to properly represent the affirmative team in this case. But the trouble is that I like poetry in the way that I like my mother. I do not understand it. I am financially, emotionally, and formally beholden to it. And when it dies, I will finally be free of some important traumatic incidences. The other thing that it felt incredibly important for me to write down, and I'm at this point just informing you of what's written on the page. This is a note to self. You can tell Vidya made this video when the internet was only a bit shit. That felt relevant to inform you of, because in the 2025 version of that video, Vidya would have immediately turned to ChatGPT, and the poem would have been honestly, like, frighteningly credible at this stage. The argument people are making that the way that we need to approach the use of AI in teaching and in the arts is to just highlight that the work is not particularly convincing. But I don't know if you've ever marked the assessments for a first-year poetry class. Sometimes I like it when they use ChatGPT. It makes my day better. The other things that I've written down here are I resent poetry, and day in the life of a poet, parentheses, horrible. And that's actually, frankly, about all I've got. And the reason that I wrote these notes in this deeply chaotic and unstructured way is first and foremost due to a set of pre-existing conditions and, again, emotional trauma from my mother. But also, frankly, I'd like to blame my father for some of that. And while I'm at it, you know, we'll just throw my husband in there. He's the poet. He's the one who got me into this bullshit. Thanks, babe. Love you. I brought you love and life and happiness and cooked you food and stuff, and you gave me linguistic trauma. You know, other kinds of contexts include, you know, the actual life of a poet being one of deep dysfunction. Most of my most recent manuscript has been written drunk in the bath. I've gone through 3 mobile phones purely just because I keep dropping them in the bath, and that is actually where I store my poetry. So, you know, formal technique is really, really going on the out. But I needed to implement some form of note-taking structure to prevent myself from what I usually do in these events, which is going overly sentimental. And that's fine when I'm booked in an event on my own, although I was excitedly informing everybody else in the green room of the last time I felt like this ahead of an event, and it ended up with the guy from MasterChef giving me his personal phone number and letting me know that if I am ever struggling the way that I struggled that night, that I can contact him and he will cook me some form of pity food. And I thought that was a good gig. So, you know, you've got to reconcile reality with whatever the fuck we do when we're on a stage, because I'm going to disassociate from that immediately as soon as I leave. Big shout out to Pranati for continuing to give me wine out there. That was a terrible mistake on your behalf. And if you honestly ask me, what do I think about the value of poetry right now on a day when I've spent most of my life attempting to coordinate other writers to pull out of the Bendigo Writers Festival, because we were just told we're not allowed to talk about Palestine for an event where we were meant to be talking about poetry and literature and voice and the world. So I'm constantly at the risk of deferring to poetic principles to articulate my deep despair and grief and horror at the universe, because these are things that, if they arise in ordinary language, you know, I believe that Pio gave a reference to either the Elliot or the Pound, whichever Nazi it was, I can't quite remember, the phrase, poetry purifies the dialect of the tribe. We reach for poetic language because it's significantly sexier and more interesting and complicated than the normal speech. And if I were to speak in normal speech about how I feel right now, going back to my concept of the day in the life of a poet, parentheses, horrible, it'd mostly just be a series of screams and slurs, and then back to the screams and then back to the slurs. And you're not really meant to do that at events, I think, anymore. I think it has something to do with like the codes of conduct that I refuse to sign or read. So I end up coming back to poetry and to wine in the bath as a way of resolving the version of myself I have to live with in the day of the life of a poet that's not sitting in front of a microphone or that's not sitting in front of a page. And that's mostly fairly horrifying. And I don't know if it was horrifying before I started writing poetry. Probably was. But now that I've got poetry, I get to talk about the moon a lot. And that's nice. It gives me something else to think about. So, yeah, listen. I keep opening and closing this Ben Lerner book, Hatred of Poetry, that they gave us as a prompt. Well, they didn't, actually. They quoted from it. And interestingly enough, from the very first line of the very first page. And then I made the decision to go and read the rest of the book. I didn't make the decision to write a speech, mind you, but I did make the decision to read the rest of the book. And it turns out he doesn't actually hate poetry. So I actually kind of think that the curators of this event kind of screwed us over a little bit. And I thought about that and I thought, why would Red Room Poetry want to do that to us? And then I realised that actually it was for the poetry we all made along the way. Probably. I don't know. I think maybe in the coolest way ever, they just have created an environment where we all get to be set up so that we get to hear Pio tell us why we need to understand and appreciate and respect poetry more. And, you know, God damn it, like, I would do that anyway. You didn't have to trick me into this room for that. So, yeah, we're gonna lose, by the way. Yeah, I just thought it was good to let you all know that. And frankly, good for you, honestly. Like, I'm all for it. Yeah, can I abdicate? Can I go on their team? Is that allowed? No? Okay, all right, cool. So great, good for poetry, free Palestine, and yeah, free Pio as well. Free Pio!
Eloise Aralon, everyone! Okay, we've gone deeply over time, folks. So let's keep going, shall we? Our final speaker for the negative, got it, and for the whole event, folks, is an award-winning artist and writer living in unceded Wadawurrung land. Her illustrated memoir and essays, Big Beautiful Female Theory, was published in 2022 and has been shortlisted for the 23 Stellar Prize, amongst other things. Please welcome our final speaker, Eloise Grills. Thank you, folks.
Poetesses and poetexes and poets of the jury. I think I've been given the shit end of the stick here. It's really hard to go at the end. Also, what's the shit end of the stick? It's like the piece of, like you've like done a poo and then you're like trying to like hide it in the bush. So you're like poking it with a stick and then there's shit on the end. Anyway. So yeah, throughout this trial, you've heard the prosecution mount their arguments against poetry, like a group of school bullies concocting their most creative epithets for the nerds in their class, like Poindexter or Four Eyes or Nerdlinger. You might have heard the defence poetry, you know, affirmative, negative, yeah, defence. You might have heard the defence called irrelevant, confusing and an abject waste of our taxpayer dollars if the other team had bothered to come up with any coherent arguments. What they presented has been filibustering, baseless flattery, and bizarre personal anecdotes. They've tried to compare poetry to the most egregious crime against humanity in the last 20 years, the Oodie. If you want to know what the one before the last 20 years was, it was Jeff Kennett.
But yeah, also no one loves being insulted more than a poet. So yeah, esteemed jury, it gives my client a sick pleasure. It makes them break out in a rash of pimples, and which gives them an even better excuse to hang out alone in their room. It's like the perfect alibi. Poetry doesn't care what you think about it. It loves every bit of language, even demeaning sobriquets. It has evolved past the ability to feel insults, like a man in a Believe Women t-shirt. Poetry understands and absorbs and revels in all criticism. But what does the evidence say? By which I mean the completely made-up reasons I came up with in the last week. Not on the stage as the debate was going on. No, yours are so good, sorry. If poetry is a crime, then of course the prosecution would be able to tell us exactly what a poem is. But of course not, because like a teenage girl from the early 2000s, poetry is like so random. Let the record show that anything can be a poem if you insist it is. Anyone can be a poet with a wrinkled copy of Charles Bukowski book under their arm, sucking moodily on a cigarette and treating his girlfriend with such subtle cruelty she thinks that she's the problem, actually. If you ask any 14-year-old girl if she's a poet, we all know what she will say. Yes, of course, I'm the reincarnation of Sylvia Plath, actually. And if you ask the same woman in 10 years' time, only the most incalcitrant ne'er-well-dos will cop to it. By this age, we've mostly had the poetry beaten out of us, replaced with the neoliberal urge to write copy about the new range of vodka cruisers. It is not then poetry that is the offender here, not poetry that should be on trial, but a society that devalues poetry without relent or remorse. Poets and poetesses and poet-theys of the jury, j'accuse society. It is society which relegates poems to serious milestones, who only trots them out for weddings and funerals like your old Aunt Sandra. It is society who condemns it to Year 12 exams, where you are compelled against your will to write about the Australian pastoral in the poems of John Kinsella. Is it a crime that the best poems make you feel like a killer returning once more to the scene of the crime? Is it a crime that they hold on to you like you're an older woman who's forgotten your husband's name while your mind is held at gunpoint by the lyrics of Mambo No. 5? Sure, poetry may be annoying. It may make you dread ever stepping into an open mic night. But ladies and gentlemen and gentle people of the jury, is it a crime? Is it a crime to have so much nuance and skill with language that you can sum up your whole life in a haiku with so much pathos it can make a district judge cry? Is it a crime for poetry to surprise you like your lost dog returning 20 years later in the body of a man named Fido? No. No, the only crime here is by poetry on poetry. To be a poet is to be a poor, defenseless nerd, to put on a boxing glove, hit yourself over the head while taunting yourself to stop hitting yourself. No one hates, clearly, based on tonight, no one hates poetry more than poets. Apart from Pio. Pio loves and supports, and we adore Pio. No one would be happy for you to lock it up and throw away the key, to let it go gentle into that good night, by which I mean put it out of its misery. If you find poetry guilty, you will only make poetry itself tremble with jubilation. Distinguished poets of the jury, you cannot allow such a rank failure of justice to occur. If you've ever had a twinge of doubt, if you've ever read a poem and smiled, or even read one and not cringed, if you've ever held a line from one in your head, persistent as the whine of a mosquito on a hot summer evening, poets and poetesses and poetexes, with all my sound and fury, I implore you, you must find poetry not guilty. And remember, if the boxing glove fits, you must acquit. The defence rests.
Eloise Grills, folks. Amazing. Thank you. Well, it's a shame that there's not an official winner or loser. I'm sure you've got your own ideas in your head about who that would be in your minds, and just keep it to yourselves for now. Just don't tell any of them. But has everyone had a great evening, folks? I have. Have the speakers had a good time? Some sort of time, Pio? Yeah, time's good. Good. That does bring us to the end of the evening, and I would like to thank the Wheeler Centre, please, and everyone, including the techs and all the staff, everyone running tonight, especially Red Room Poetry, and a shout out to its Poetry Month. If you're not aware, follow it on Instagram and follow Red Room, folks. But I'm just reminded as we went through tonight, I just want to say something that occurred to me. I don't know if you're familiar with a writer named Terence McKenna who wrote about drugs and evolution and plants and things, but I'm reminded of something I read by him once, which was, if the artist cannot find the way cannot be found. And that's what I thought of today. I appreciate that. I hope you do too. If you don't, get out. I would like to welcome to the stage, just to see us out with the song. Give it up for all the acts you've seen. I'm totally out of order here. We're going to leave, I think, folks. Are we leaving? Do we leave for this bit? Please welcome Leah Senior, who's going to see us out with the song. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, everyone.
Glad we got to the bottom of that. Thanks, Red Room, for having me as part of Poetry Month. I led you on to thinking I was sweet, 'cause I sing so high and clean, but I'm selfish as a cat and I'm hungry as the sea, and I cling to my own time like a child up a tree. I let myself believe that I was free, and you know I'd like to be, but I'm a slave to the feeling that surrounds me, pulling something from the air around me. Some days I look into the mirror and see no reflection, and so I turn towards the faces, see only questions. I get on a roll and do it right, then I let go of the wheel, and the child in me cries out to be loved, to feel that a body is enough. Some days I look into the mirror and see no reflection, and so I find myself in song, gives me direction. You know it gives me direction. I feel myself drifting out. Yeah, where am I now? I feel myself spinning but you pull me in, yeah, you pull me in. you pull me in.
Leah Senior, folks. Amazing. Thank you. Folks, that is the end. My name's David Quirk. Thank you so much for coming out, and see you at the next one. All the best. Thank you.